Hello, everybody. Now, I bet you are all expecting that other bearded, bald-headed, and better-looking man, Brent George, but fortunately, he is unable to make it tonight, and trust me, he is kicking himself because this is quite possibly one of the most anticipated streams that we've had here on Agora.Community with none other than Mr. Alexis Wanneroy. And like Brent, I hope I'm saying your last name correctly. Give me a thumbs up in the back there if I am. No, I'm not. So he will be here, and he will be joined by Mr. David Hubert and Mr. Jacob Gardner. So before we get started, I just want to say a quick apology. In the initial post that I did online, I said that Alexis was the head of character animation for season 1 on Arcane. He was actually the lead animator, which is the US equivalent of a supervising animator, which is something I didn't actually know, that they had different titles across the waters. So the head of character animation was actually Bart Manuri, but nonetheless, still such an amazing position to have on one of the most watched and talked about animated series of our time at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in our hosts and Alexi, and then I'm going to disappear. So have a great chat, everyone. Okay. David, hello.
Thanks, Scott.
No worries. Jacob, welcome. And
hello, welcome.
Last but not least, Mr. Alexi.
Hey,
Thank you very much. All right. See you later, everyone.
Bye, Scott.
Scott.
How are you, Alexi?
Good. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a while, actually.
It's been a while.
Yes, it's been a long time since all three of us worked together. It ended in like 2015, 14? When was the last time we were all working together at DreamWorks?
2012. When David left.
Kidding.
That's when I left, and you guys, yes. I left a little early.
It seemed later than that. So it's been even longer than I thought. Okay.
So it's like 10 years ago.
It doesn't seem like 10 years ago. That's for sure. So yeah, full disclaimer, we've all worked together at DreamWorks, so that's a pretty fun little reunion here with Alexi. Alexi, maybe for those that don't know you, let's do just a quick recap of your professional career. Let's go way back. You studied at the Gobelin, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I was at Gobelin 25 years ago, something like this. I started my career in London on a movie called Valiant. It was a feature film back then that was done in London. It was one of those rare ones. Outside of right after school, actually, Shayla Page, who is somebody who recruits a lot of European people from Gobelin, and talked to me about DreamWorks and the opportunity that there might be some work for me and for other French guys like Pierre or Olivier or Alex. And so they all recruited us. Like there was like 4 or 5 years in a row from Gobelin who went to DreamWorks, and yeah, I've spent like 15 years in there. 13 years. I always say 15, but it was 13 years exactly. And after that, like you guys, I thought that I wanted to see what was out there, was different, and I also wanted to come back to my country. So I came back to France. And coming back to France allowed me to work on Arcane because Bart, so the head of animation, was just called me. Reached out to me, explaining to me that they were working on this project and showing me this amazing show. And so I started working on Arcane about 2 years ago. Well, not exactly, a bit less, but. Yeah.
Awesome. So you said 13 years at DreamWorks?
Yes, 13 years at DreamWorks. I enjoy every moment of it. Actually, it was amazing for artists, for how they treat their employees, for the little community that it was for animation, how we drive the animation, like to push the animation further. It's always been challenging at time, but also very, very fun and cool company to work for sure.
And
13 years is a long time and a lot of projects. Do you have a favorite one from all of the ones you did at DreamWorks?
Yeah, Dragon has been always for sure. It's just story wise, everything goes in the same direction. Dragon 1, 2, the third one was good too when I worked on it. It's just the first one was very special for everybody at DreamWorks, I think.
Sure.
Do you guys, David, you worked on it or no?
No, Jacob and I were on Shrek as you guys were working on How to Train.
Yeah, that's true. I remember now. Yeah.
Yes,
but yeah,
part of me is a little glad I didn't work on it, only because I got to experience it as an audience member, and that was so cool. That's still my favorite project to date at DreamWorks, even though I didn't work on it. It's an awesome one.
Well, for sure. I mean, to me, the whole Dragon franchise, as they call it, is like the best that DreamWorks did for sure. I mean, to me. Yeah.
So, and Alex, you worked on, Kung Fu Panda, Dragon, Guardians, and there's been some change. They all have different style of animation. Maybe go over your own journey as an animator and how your own style and how you approach animation changed from one production to another.
That's very very interesting. In general, is like first is reference arrive in Dragons, I think, for everybody. So it changed the way that I started to animate because of looking at it. It was a different perspective, looking at how things move. So when you start with reference, most of the time you also try to copy a lot, which is the purpose of it, but also can be detrimental sometimes. Anyway, so when I starting with that, to me, it evolved a lot, because before that, I was on Panda, I was on B-Movie, I was on Flushed Away. I think those shows were different. Panda was amazing, but Panda is so appealing that it works as an animation on its own. But being able to have reference really changed all this. And the problem with reference, I was saying it after Dragons, I went on Guardians, and it can be something where it becomes almost too much. But it's funny because I thought that for a very long time, and I'm going to explain where I'm going with this. But the truth is, because of Arcane or because of Mielgo's stuff, actually, I think it's not entirely true. It's also dependent on the graphic style that goes with it. So I don't want to start saying bad things about movies and stuff like that. But on Guardians, I think the graphicness and the characters and the look didn't help. It's not so much the fact that we copied so much reference and that we tried to do those emotions and stuff. So anyway, so that was cool. And then after Guardians, I got put onto a movie called Boo, which was a movie that got canceled. So I worked 3 years on this. 3 years, that was just like, phew.
Got some bad luck there.
It happened a lot for a lot of us at DreamWorks. I think it happened.
I'm not the only one, but it does suck.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that we had a question recently of, how do you deal with the fact that, you work on a shot and it's cut from a movie? Well, there are some people that worked multiple years on a movie that never got released. So that's
exactly.
It can be worse than a shot that is cut.
But on this, the style was super cartoony. So I wasn't from Guardians doing my references and stuff. It was good. And then all of a sudden I couldn't animate. Like, it was impossible for me to get something cartoony. So I completely changed my workflow, the way that I look at reference, the way that I use reference. It took me about 6 months, I think, before I got a shot that was looking decent. So that's where the whole story starts. But is like, to me, it's also being able to adapt with your styles. And the more you evolve, and the more I understood that it's actually still using reference for intentions, because it's super important to have intentions in your shots, but kind of depending on the style, you stay more or less close to it. So on Arcane, I would stay very close to it, where on something very cartoony, after my first poses of blocking, I think I'm just going to animate with principles and this kind of anticipation, settle, etc., etc. Wow.
I can totally relate. I had similar experiences with that stylistic whiplash, going from, I don't remember what the projects were, but something that was more realistic to Madagascar, and so the stylistic differences there, they really trip you up, and it gets hard to get out of the rut you might have been in.
Yeah, because Jacob, you worked in Guardians as well, so you also went through the experience of, I don't want to say following the reference maybe too much, but following to a point that it's almost like one for one. There's not a lot of creative liberty. So do you feel that it was almost like a necessary exercise that, okay, now I know the extreme, but now I can use it?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. I wouldn't change any of that. I learned so much from Guardians and about capturing performance. And that helped prepare me for future stuff. But yeah, I think it was absolutely necessary in my career path. It was cool.
Yeah.
Same for mine. It's always been this. Like, it's so important to have done this thing about reference and been copying it for years. Like, what, 2 years on Guardians, but then you're like, okay, now I can do a lot more.
Yeah. So, Alexis, do you feel that, okay, you really developed this way of properly analyzing a reference and take the essence of the performance, but maybe to a point that you relied so much on it that you almost became I don't want to say lazy, but you completely rely on it, and then after that, it took you
that's
all
actually
this time.
where it all changed. After Boo, I got put on Larrikins. So Larrikins is a show that's been canceled again. I worked 2 years on this.
Wait, hold on. So that was 3 years on Boo and 2 years on Larrikins right in a row. So 5 years of work you couldn't show anybody.
Yep. But luckily, Larrikins became a little short that was called Bilby. So it's a whole actual full length feature film that got put into such a short. So there's so many animals and things, but it's not like it's been a big success. So not a lot of people have seen it. But anyway, no matter what, on Larrikins, I was not using any reference. I was just animating for the fun of it, just doing some funny poses, staying in them. And then I would animate without even needing some reference. The problem is it happened in a couple of shots where I was missing some intentions and I was going for accents all the time and those kind of things that you don't want to do in animation as well, which is the gimmick of animation, of accenting everything, always on the beat, making gestures for everything. It's also that becomes the issue. So that's where it's important to have a bit of a mix. But I think I learned a lot, but I also went away, and now I'm actually on Arcane. There is shots that I didn't have reference. Depend. When I felt like it was needed for the intentions or for an acting that was feeling very natural, it was important. But when it was something more about posing, and I would just do it just in the different way.
Well, you mentioned Bilby real fast. Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I thought it was awesome, and also knowing the history of where it came from, with a canceled feature film that was pretty far along into production. Yep. It probably sets the record for the short film with the biggest cast of extra characters, of fully rigged, modeled, animated characters. Can you talk a little bit more about that project?
Yeah. So
and I'll have Scott post a link to it. It's on Vimeo as well. Scott, can you put that into the chat so people can watch it later?
Thank you. So Larrikins, I'm going to call it Larrikins because that was the name of the project, was directed by Tim Minchin, and this guy is super funny, and he was an awesome director to be with. So he was at DreamWorks, and he was having those ideas of like these Australian animals that would fight and be raw and rude, and they like rock and roll, and so it was a whole musical as well. The problem is it was a musical for I don't even know if I'm allowed to, but I'm pretty sure yes. It was a musical about for kids, but for boys more, because it was all fighting, and so they were all always like. But it was super fun, and all those characters were designed. I mean, not all, but most of them were designed by Pierre Perifel, a friend of ours, and he did an amazing job. And so with the animation team, there was JP Sans, there was David Weatherly, Onur, and myself and Pierre, and we were developing this movie, and it was awesome. It was just so awesome. Creatively, friendship, environment, and as I was saying with Tim Minchin, and it was really cool. Now it didn't do DreamWorks didn't do it because of the fact that they thought, well, it's actually when Universal bought DreamWorks. So it was a lot of things that were kind of shaking up. So it's not only DreamWorks, it's a bit of everything that happened on this. Unfortunately, when you have 1, 2, 3 movies, some people had Me and My Shadows that was canceled, Boo, plus this. At some point, you're like, guys, or there was also the Monkeys. It's like, it's been a lot of shows. So people were really like down because of that. But that's why they decided there was this gap, and we decided to use all those characters on this short that was created by the same people. I think the story came from Onur and Lyron. Yeah, Lyron did the story, and so they all developed that story with Lyron and JP and Pierre. That's who it was. Sorry, not Onur. And we all worked on it. The animators that were part of this production at the beginning, and it was super fun, very creative, very very fun.
That's awesome. How did it go with getting that okayed with the studio? Did you have to fight for it? Did they just let it happen?
Well, at this point, they wanted to do shorts. That's there've been a few shorts from DreamWorks. This one being one of them, and they wanted to do them. So if you had any idea, it was something that wouldn't cost too much money, and so they thought, well, we should do something. The also Tim Minchin gave his approval, which is something that he could have said no because but he also said that they could use it. So no, it's been I think we were lucky to be able to show actually those designs and those characters because it changed from what we were used to, in some way in terms of artistically. And I think that's the same team actually that is behind Bad Guys. I mean, Pierre is the director of Bad Guys, and those guys, JP is the head of animation of Bad Guys, and it's really cool what they're doing with the poses, the style, and it's cool that DreamWorks is pushing for some lines, some simplification and things. I hope people like it.
Yeah, the trailer got released not long ago, and I was pretty stoked by this one.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see that DreamWorks is going to explore in a slightly different direction that they're already doing. So that's pretty cool.
Graphically is really for that. It's really cool. I agree.
Yeah, and Billy was it the last production that you did at DreamWorks?
No, I was on Dragon 3. Dragon 3 was the last one. Yes.
And was it a
Dragon
tough?
3 was good.
Was it a tough decision to leave DreamWorks?
It's not actually. It's not necessarily leaving DreamWorks. It was really leaving the US. I wanted to go back to France. I became a US citizen, so I'm an American as well. So, but I just wanted to come back to France even for my kids there. They were 8 and 5-year-old. I wanted to see them to grow up in France. And but I'm really happy in France. I'm in the south of France, so it's a beautiful place to live. I'm in Camargue. Camargue is like it's a little bit like Florida. It has like flamingos and a lot of swamps and horses, and it's actually a beautiful place. And I'm working from Montpellier, which is like a 20 minutes driving, and I'm having really enjoying life here. All this has been possible because of Fortiche and because of the project of Arcane, because of Riot. So I'm super happy. At the beginning, being in Montpellier and trying to work from here, I think I would have gone with Agora. I'm honest, like to me, it's the project that would have made it so that I would, No, it's true. Like being able to work from where you want is also a very, very cool thing.
I would say that Arcane was a pretty good plan B. You did well.
I'm so happy and so grateful. I mean, I'm always say it, but for Bart, who put me on this project, for the owners of Fortiche, for the studio that they created, because that's always the core of Arcane. Is those three guys in Fortiche, and what they did is like, it's cool. It's cool.
I'm curious to ask before we dive a little bit into Arcane. How would you describe the cultural difference at the workplace of working for an American animation studio compared to a French animation studio?
I actually, it's in the US you have to be to act. So it's actually, it has both end of the side. I think in the US you have to be very careful about how you say things and how you behave in the workplace. Where in France you can be a bit more like, not say crazy, but doing things and not
less
needing
careful
the
with everything
approvals.
that you're saying. Yeah.
Yes, even saying or doing, like a party or something in the workplace that shouldn't be done, or like they don't really care. But the problem with this is it also sometimes creates things that are not necessarily easy to fix or to deal with in terms of a company. Let's say if you're at DreamWorks, by having a certain way of acting and doing things, you are able to make sure that things don't go wrong, or don't go the bad way, which can happen as well in a place that is more open. However, I think at DreamWorks, they always actually were pretty relaxed about all this. I think it's been not as easy with, in studios, other studios. I'm not going to say names anymore. After I'm on Cartoon Brew, and I'm like, oh, damn it. Anyway. But anyway, I think yes. And in the workplace in France, that's what I like. You can say that when things are not right, when the something doesn't feel good in terms of the story, in terms of, I think you can definitely say more. It's not as, but it's the same thing. Like right now I'm talking about our Fortiche, and Fortiche is very different than if I'm talking about another company in France, that is working for another big studios. I think it would be different for MacGuff. It would be different for Micros. It would be different for DreamWorks. Is it different for Disney? So to me, the culture,
it's a little bit more of like a specific thing for Fortiche's culture rather than American versus France studio.
Yeah, I think it's that. And at Fortiche, they started as at 15 people in an apartment where people could stay all night and work and enjoy and drink and party and like if they were friends. And I think that's what they kept as their culture, is this thing of people being able to just feel like they're at home. And that's always been Jérôme and Pascal and Arnaud ID on this. And I think it's really cool. Yeah. And it's never been the idea, of DreamWorks or Disney or any of those companies. I think it's more of a workplace where you can become an amazing artist, where you can have, like at DreamWorks, it's like in some way, we always felt very, very lucky to be able to have this place that is amazing, where you have free food, where if you have something that is not, if you don't feel good, they will make sure that you're getting better, or that they will do everything for you. And it's an environment where you can grow as an artist. I mean, I've learned so much. Like when we talk about Guardians to Boo to this, it's like it'll help me learning about animation so much. So, and for how all those years and in movies that I'm super proud to have worked on. So it's still an amazing workplace to me. It's always been. And the difference, I love Fortiche for Arcane and the project, but I also remember and loved all this a lot. It's when I arrived, and even after 13 years, I think it's still something that, so it's different, but both are really, really cool, but different. In terms of artistically, I'm super happy at Fortiche, and even in terms of the studio. But
I read an article recently that mentioned that the co-founder of Fortiche are all artists themselves, and that has an impact on the studio. So is that something that you recognize yourself, and how would you say it kind of differentiate Fortiche from other studios that might be maybe run more by managers or business men and women?
I think it's a very hard thing when you have a studio to be able to say that you're not going to do something for money, but you're going to do it because of your wanting to do something artistic and cool. It's very hard, because I think most studios want, when they do a project, to make money. It's the same thing with Larrikins, if we think about it, or Boo. It's like, are we doing this movie or not? No, it's not going to make enough money, because they don't even think about, is it a good story? What is not working? It's more about this. Where in Fortiche for Arcane, it's always been about let's make something really awesome. Let's make something cool that looks this way, that is so graphic, that it's never been about, will this, you think people will like this? I remember, so everybody, the first time I came to Fortiche, I looked at the season 1 in boards. I was amazed by it. And I remember knowing this will be like amazing. And it's funny because even the Arnaud was telling me, so the one of the head of Fortiche, the director of Arcane from Fortiche, he was like, towards the end, he's like, do you think people will like it? Do you think it's going to work? And it was the end, and I knew what the season was like and how it was looking, and obviously I was like, yes, but even me, I was like, maybe not. Maybe it's too adult. Maybe people are not going to even watch it because it's not for kids. So I started to put everything back into doubting, into the way that we've been always taught about, like, if it's for adults, it's not going to work. If it's to this, it's not going to work. If it's to, if there's people smoking, it's not going to work. If there is people with drinks, it's not going to work. And like they try and they push for a lot of those things, for blood, and I think it's cool, and that's what people loved about Arcane. It's because it's so real, and it's always been pushing for that in every step of the production.
Yeah. I'm just curious, what can you say about the creative relationship with Riot Games? Because as you mentioned, okay, we have people that are going to drink, there will be smoking, this and that. How much did they have to go through the committee decision of what can be put on the screen or not?
So Riot is same thing. I think is an amazing company. When I was in LA, I remember wanting to work for Riot. After DreamWorks, I was like, where should I go? There's Riot who is opening this cinematic thing, and I went there. It's an amazing place. So you know what DreamWorks does? They do it, but in a way where if you want to take holidays, you can. You can take 2 weeks. You're going to get paid. And then you can take 3 months. You're going to get paid as long as you give them something from your artistic or from what you do that is. So it's a place where you can be an artist and you can work on your own things and evolve. So they know a little bit about that, and they know that they can let the artists work on their things, and it's going to give something good. So I think that's a big thing about why this worked between Fortiche and Riot. I think I'm sure it has been tough. There's moments where it was hard, but the vision that Christian Linke had, and this guy is a German. So I'm also, there's this European things with the French, and it's always been, when I see him with the directors of Arcane, it's always so fun. Like they know each other so well, and they all really interact in a very collaborative and funny way. And I don't know, to me it's always been going in the same direction. It's like just what needed the show. So it's never been about the smoking. I know that they've asked sometimes to reduce some or things like that because it was starting to get big, so when it gets big, then people are like, oh, but there is a lot of it. But if not, it's still something that was always kind of pushed for the artistic vision of the directors at Fortiche, of Arnaud and Pascal and Jérôme. They always wanted to push for their vision, and they always let them do that, which is something that is amazing. And it's also coming from the fact that it's Riot also invested in this. Netflix came very late in the game. It's always been Riot who has invest all their everything into the show, into Fortiche. So
yeah. Did you guys anticipated the success that it was going to have? Because I mean, it's one thing to know that, okay, what we're doing, we know it's good, but we've all seen projects that we knew they were good and they just didn't take off. And for me, Arcane is arguably I would dare to say, a cultural phenomenon. Because, and the reason I say that is, even before I saw it, for the last 3 years, each time a client would come to Agora and a super high quality and great style, it was Spider-Verse. I mean, it was the go-to thing. And something happened in December, and it stopped being Spider-Verse and it started to be Arcane. It was like, okay, what is this? I need to watch this this show. So it became more than just the show itself.
That's true.
Somebody
told me that I don't remember who told me that like a few days ago. Like now everybody wants to see like every client comes, and I think I was in something at Montpellier, and somebody told me that like now every client that comes is just asking for some Arcane similar stuff. No, we were not anticipating. I mean, yes and no. It's the same thing. I'm like, it's so good. It looks so beautiful. The first time again I saw this, it was already comped. It was already this first episode that you guys have seen. It's just the thing that Bart showed me. It was a bit different, the comp, but not that much. It was a little bit of I was blown away. But it's the style that they to me on Rise already, or on KDA, the style was already there. It was already like set. And on episode 1 as well. This is something that they took time to develop, but now that they had it, to me, is what makes this beautiful. After, for the story, when I saw the board and the story, I was blown away. After episode 3, I couldn't believe it. The end of episode 3, I was like, okay, what's going on? Let's see. I remember it was like third day or something like this. I was starting, and when you start on a walk cycle. You see, they do similar things that what we would do on Guardians. On Guardians, we would do a walk to turn to start as like what they do is when you start on the show, guys, they give you a week or 2 weeks of ramp up so that you get used to the style of the show. So when I got onto Arcane, we had a walk cycle like that, and then I don't remember what it was because I'm doing something. Then I started at Montpellier doing a walk and then a facial test. So it was cool but I stopped the walk cycle to look at the episodes, and then I was hooked. It was like, and so for the success, to me, it was yes, because it was amazing and it was beautiful, but the only thing that I was doubting was maybe the fact that it was too adult, maybe that adult people wouldn't watch this. So who would watch it? But everybody, I think, that watches it is hooked into the story, into what the character does. My mother-in-law, she saw it, and she was like, because I worked on it, so she looked at it and she was like, I would have never thought of watching that, but it was amazing. She just enjoyed it a lot. So
yeah,
I think to
Very
me
cool.
it was like, okay, so that means that it will work for a lot of people. But it was already too late anyway. It was already first everywhere. I was like, okay, cool.
You mentioned that when you joined Fortiche, you watched episode 1 that was slightly different than it is now. I had read or heard things that they redid episode 1 like 6 times over the course of 6 years or something. I know that was before you got there, but do you know if that was an evolution of design or story or finding the characters?
Story, I don't think I'm allowed to say, but things shifted between where they were originally and when they ended up. So some scenes were in episode 1, they ended up in episode 3, and so it got reshift. But it's amazing, those shifts. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about them because they're always saying, "Oh, we don't want to say too much about." But it's those kind of shifts that makes.
You don't have to talk about any of those specifics. Yeah.
No, but it's those kind of shifts that makes it feel like, oh wow, it's really cool, actually. Wow, because then you understand the whole story that's back there, and etc.
Yeah. For you, what makes it a artistic and creative success? Because there's many different elements that needs to, from the character design to the aesthetic to the animation. It just seems that it just gel super well together. And I'm assuming that's a recipe that needed to be reworked and reworked and reworked. Well, and maybe this is where it becomes handy to have co-founders that are creative themselves. So they're like, no, we're not going to stop until it's amazing. But what from your standpoint makes it just gel together so well?
Well, it's exactly what is the co-founders and Bart and Julien, who is the master at comp. So those guys is basically, there's Pascal Charru. He's the guy who runs all the modeling and all the character design and all the assets, basically. So everything, and he's the owner of Fortiche, and he does all the sculptures and all this. So that's a big part of it. The second one has been Jérôme who invented the style of fortiche and this kind of 2D with some of the clips that he directed, like I think in 2012 on La Gaviota. I think it was him who developed this kind of fortiche style. And then you have Arnaud Delors, who is the director who comes up with all those ideas in those sequences that you see, and the cinematography in those sequences, and how they kind of is the editing, is all this stuff that is very specific to Arcane, but is also coming from this guy. So those are the three first, and then for the two other one is the animation team that's been working on making a style that feels real, that feels kind of raw, but that doesn't feel over animated, and that also doesn't feel like super posy in the way where it wouldn't feel natural. So it's always been a fine line. And also in the comp department, because those guys, like the matte painting and the composition and the lighting, and it's just stunning. So it's those five guys together that are able to create this artistically.
So create this, and then after that, assembling a team that will be able to scale this for, because you guys did like the equivalent of what, like 3 animated feature, like back to back, literally.
Yeah, we were like going, but it's in terms of animation, in terms of quotas, we have also something that is similar to feature film. So we were going to be able to hit that. That the only thing is the animation is when it's very real, or when it's needs to feel real, it's a lot harder and takes more time, especially on mechanics, like on some of those shots on mechanics and in the fighting and stuff. It takes a lot more time. So that's also where sometimes we need to go faster in some things, but we don't even do that. We try to always keep for the best quality and everything. So that to me is what's showing as well, is because we had the time to do it well, in all the departments. And then why is it not as expensive as other stuff if we spend that much time in animation? It's because Fortiche has a very intelligent way of thinking their pipeline and their process, and the way that they render, and the way that they comp, and the way that they rig, and the way that they board, and the way that they do everything else around the animation. Like, because animation is, I think, is one of the only department that keeps the same size as the rest. In terms of lighting, they don't have lighters, but they have a lot of people that paints. So it's still a very, very big size as well. Those are the two main big departments. Is
so
like
they don't have
lighters. No, there is no lighting and on it. It's all painted. There is passes of lights where you have a rim or something like this.
So they are automated paths that is then sent to comp, and comp kind of reassemble them and deal with the lighting in real time.
Lighting, and it's per shot. It's a lot of painting per shot and per and it's but it saves us a lot of money. And rigging, same way. They find very smart ways of having characters that rigs that are being able to be ported, and so that we don't have as much rigors as what for example there was at DreamWorks or there is a Disney or in other companies. And for the boards is because the boards are very, very well detailed, and they stick to those, with something that we always requested since day one. Is like, let's have some boards that are really well done, so then after we can match those, and then we don't have to redo everything and change cameras in every shot. It's something that we never do. Like, we never change camera. Yes, we do change camera, but it's not like if the camera is here, we're going to put it this way. It's like it's going to adjust ever so slightly if needed, but most of the time we're not, because usually we work in the same time as the painting departments, so that if we move cameras, then the painting is to be redone completely, so that it doesn't work.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit about the animation techniques that you found on this one? You talked about the style of the fighting. What sorts of techniques did you use for those impacts to make them hit harder and feel heavier and everything?
It's a it's first is mimicking something that feels real. So when we were boxing, the head of animation, Bart Manuri, started, I think, taking boxing classes when he started on Arcane like 6 years ago and stuff, to learn a bit about techniques. So he would let us know about the foot, how it turns, the fact that your body turns and your hips there, and that it stays more on the spot instead of going, for the whole thing that feels, it's actually more into real fighting techniques, which I think is very important. Is also what the boards do, and there's also some animators that are super talented on this show about this. Like one is Kevin Fu. I'm sure you guys have seen some of his stuff, but he does a lot of smears, a lot of beautiful posing with some timing that is completely out there. And this guy works on ones, and he completely is like insane, but he's amazing at what he does. And one of the team that did a lot of those fights that are really cool is one is Stéphane Mangin, who was one of the leads, and he had Keifu actually in his team, and they did the Jinx Vi thing. They did the Vi as well, only where Vi punched in the first one, and I think it's in episode 3, and then they did the other sequence with Jinx and Vi. I mean, when Jinx redoes the movements of Vi, and same team, they did as well the when they're on the bridge, the knife shot and all this. That's what their sequence. And then there was also the Sevica fights, those two Vi Sevica fights, those two different sequences of fight. One was done by Rémi Thérault's team with a lot of animators that are amazing on there, and the other one was done, I think, by it was, if I'm not mistaken, Martial's team who did the other fights. No, I don't know, but a lot of animator worked on that one, on that last Civica fight in the bar where they drink and stuff. And it's just very, very talented animators that come up with ideas, but they all go in the reference room and they shoot some ref of themselves. And I don't know what I'm getting blurry. Sorry, guys. My camera's getting... Technical issue. There we go.
And just put your hand in front of it. It's going to refocus sometime. Nope, didn't work.
Like, nope.
Perfect, way better. Yeah.
Up. Wow,
there we go.
Awesome. So yeah, and we also looked at a lot of on the pre-prod. They look at a lot of anime stuff. I think it's something that's like Satoshi Kon for editing, for the way that people would even in terms of animation, how we are not going to push for overacting or for things that feel very natural and normal. I think it was a big inspiration. What?
Yeah. So something that I felt was adding a lot was the 2D effects that you and especially, I mean, on contacts and all that. Was it something that was a little bit informed by 3D animators, that they would like animate a sphere just for timing or something like that, or it's something that was completely done afterwards in comp?
So no, we do a bit of both. So when we do the animation, so for contacts and things like that, again, animators would do a lot. We would do the smears in some stuff, and we would do multiple arms or limbs, or depending on the shots, or but the 2D effects on this show, they're going after us, and they're doing things on twos. So it creates something a bit sharp that's really cool, and it creates an amazing mix between the two. But those impacts and the comp as well in the impacts and the things that they added is, it just sells the shot a lot more, and it helps with those impacts. What they do is they put like a white frame with like white, it's like an inverted frame with completely painted. And even, I don't know if you've seen like when the bones get crashed, sometimes that's all 2D stuff that they do as a pass after. So the animator did all this stuff, but then they do the bone that crashes in 2D, and the same thing. It's being done smartly, instead of let's do it in 3D. We do the broken. No, we're just doing passes of 2D on top of things, and it works great because it's also very graphic. So you can do that. It's also for sure because from the beginning, this show is it's very, very graphic for that.
But as you said,
But yeah.
it's very smart, because on one side it's more time efficient to do it in 2D, but that's the kind of show that literally you can stop on every frame and you have a nice picture.
Painting,
And
yeah.
that's, so I'm just super impressed that is basically just, automated lighting that is exported in PAS, that you reassemble in Comp, and then drawn,
It's because
painted over.
the painting that makes all this. I mean, really, the technique is something that. So this, do you remember Burning Safari?
Yes.
So Burning Safari, guys, is a short movie that was done at Gobelin before I arrived at DreamWorks. So it's like 20 years ago. Okay, and this show, the production designer was Aurélien Prédal. Aurélien Prédal is an amazing art director. He worked on a few movies, but you should look at his art; is stunning. This guy, he did some stuff. So he painted the backgrounds, okay, like a painting, and then he would do kind of the similar models, but that are like, let's say if it's a sphere, he's going to do a quick sphere, a quick cube, just so that there is some type of depth to it, and that you can turn around, and then he project his painting on these things. It's called a cam map. Okay, so a cam map is something that's been used for years, something that we do a lot at Gobelin. It's efficient, it doesn't take as much time, and it's amazing. And that's the technique that they use. It's just a cam mapping. So they paint, they make some assets, they make it a bit more rough than if it was a DreamWorks movie where you would have to do like textures of everything in there. So they paint and they reuse frames and they reuse the same assets and stuff like that. So it's efficient, and it first, it doesn't show at all. That's the amazing part. It actually makes it better. And and it doesn't cost as much. I mean, maybe, but I don't think so. Because it restricts a lot of other areas, which is good. Like I was saying about the layout, the cameras, even the cinematography language, because all this is also coming from things that are done in live action. And I don't know if you guys have seen, I like Mandalorian or Boba Fett. I don't know why, but it's much simpler in the way that they stage those things, in the way that they think about the cinematography and the way it's been done. And it shows, and in some way, to me, it feels much better than if you think of those big Star Wars with everything that they can put, so that it feels, it's a bit of that, is making it to what actually makes it for just for the art of it.
I mean, limitation and constraint is definitely helping the creative side. That's for sure. How would you say, what was the impact of COVID on the production? Because for some studios, like, well, literally within a week, everyone was working from home and they were as efficient. And there's other studio that barely made it through it. So how would you?
We did half of season 1, I would say, during COVID, but it's been on and off in France. In France, we were off for like the first months or 2 months, I think. So everybody was at home, and within the first week, everybody was working. I think it went well. It's just for us, it was not as easy as being at work for reference, for communication, for meetings. It's still okay. I'm actually working from home. It's been 3 weeks again, and people are, and it works. But it's funny, for the culture that goes with Fortiche, me and I think a lot of people prefer to be at work, in the environment and stuff. But we actually. It actually worked well. I think we made it work well. But we also have been in, like at Montpellier, we started on episode 7. And so 7, 8, 9, we did all being in at the work. And actually, even after, when we got into before season 2, we stayed in the studio, and even in season 2, we stayed in the studio. It's just been those 3 weeks now that we've been. So it's been a year where we have been in the studio for Montpellier, for example. So it depends, But we all have masks at work, and but it's okay. We have that's something that I like. We have a ping pong table, we have foosball, something that we had at DreamWorks actually as well. But it's cool to be able to play and have fun during the breaks between people, so that it creates a bit of of a team building and team spirit. And then when we had the Arcane rap party, we would do like those big tournament of foosball all together, like against each other. It was really cool. It was like they do gigantic foosball table where you're like 10 playing against 10. So
Awesome.
That's cool.
yeah, it's good.
Can you point to a specific thing that you would consider to be your proudest achievement on your contribution to Arcane?
Being able, actually, I'm super. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm really grateful, but proud, not really. I don't know. I mean, I'm proud to have been part of Arcane for sure. But it's more the same thing as I'm grateful to be able to have been part of it and to have been able to say that I worked on it and that I got to animate on it, because that was the main. Like, it was so much fun when I used to animate. I don't animate anymore. I miss it. That's why now that I have 20 animators that so I'm in the fortiche branch, so I have I'm supervising all those guys, and it's cool, but I'm missing the animation part of things. Actually, I casted myself 2 shots today, so I'm going to start animating it.
Good for you. You deserve it.
Yeah.
I've seen that we have a lot of questions in chat today. So, Scott, whenever you want to start to pull them at the bottom of this window, we're going to go through them very rapidly. I saw one passing by, and the question was, how much mocap was used?
None.
Arcane.
None mocap.
Zero.
None mocap. Zero mocap. No,
there we go.
we don't use mocap. We have been animating all this. It's something that's been important, because we've been spending a lot of time on mechanics and things and looking at reference. So no mocap used on Arcane.
Was there any discussion about maybe using it for some, let's say, background characters, or
yes. Yes, but this no. So if we're talking about main, no. If we're talking about on the background characters, not. So there is 3 parts. There is crowds, there is animation main, and there is animation extra. Extra is some background characters that are closer, that are animated hand. But for the crowds, mocap I think was used. Okay. So we have like is some suits. I think, I don't know the brand. With some few captors that they use for that. Okay. But so yes, there has been in crowds.
Yeah. So again, trying to be.
I'm not even sure actually. Maybe they use the cycles that we did for the extras, because there's been a lot of libraries, extensive libraries that we can reuse on different characters, different things. So. But all those were created. There's been quite a gap in between at the beginning of season 1 when they rewrite it and etc. And at this moment, they did a lot of pre-production.
Yeah. All right. So, by the way, Scott, you can bring those questions one after the other, so we can go through as many as we can. Thank you for much for doing this. How much time was spent on animating the body versus the facial animation?
It depends of the shot. If it's a facial shot, we spend a lot of time on both. I think the only thing I would say is mechanical shots where you see the whole body walking and turning. And I remember this shot of Victor that is coughing, is putting on his cane, and he's turning and he's going away, that I had to do, and I don't remember how much long on this. And I will never put it in my reel, but it was a nightmare. So for those kind of shots, I think is where we spend the most time for no reward whatsoever, where we have shots that are much more close on the face, and then we get a lot of good stuff about it. So.
I remember there were times on Guardians where people would show shots that are just the body animated and the face kind of turned off to see if you could sell the body mechanics of the performance. Did you ever do any of those sorts of things?
No. So on Arcane, we I think it's very, very good question. It's about the workflow thing. The one thing that I do differently than I did on Guardians is we do very few poses at the beginning to get the most appealing pose that we can going in, pose to pose, and then I keep on going on pose to pose, pose to pose, pose to pose. So we always work with face and body all together, working for a whole kind of pose. It's a very 2D way of doing things at the end. However, when we show our blocking to Riot, we show it on 2s most of the time, or maybe 4s, 2s, something like this in blocking, but it's a very detailed blocking for our first pass, because we've developed such a good relationship with them in animation that we know already a little bit of what Christian is looking for in terms of acting, in terms of, so we can push for blocking a little bit further, and it's really cool because of that. But I love that.
That leads perfectly into this question.
Yeah, exactly. So how much feedback would Riot give in general? Would they be very broad feedback, or it can go into minute details?
So for animation, it's going to be about the performance for the shot. But for the characters, because here I see the impact, the vibe of the characters, I think for the characters, it comes from story. So when they worked in the storyboards with Fortiche, so it's Fortiche people that worked on the boards, and they try to develop a little bit about the vibe of the characters in those, actually a lot of the vibe of the character. So when it comes to animation, we already know who is the character, how she acts, why she acts like this. And so it's more about some of the intention that might not show in boards, about things that Christian would like for us to show. But we have a launch where he explained very well what he wants on each shot. Sometimes he doesn't even go through each shot. It depends of the sequence and if it's very important, those reactions or not. And after, when we show him, it's exactly about intentions. If the intention is not met, if what he's expecting the audience to see is not seen, this kind of thing, then I think it's really good, because like that, for us, we can focus on all the details of animation, making it feel connected, polished, well animated, beautiful posing. All this stuff is left to us, but the intention and those things is left to the director, which is really cool.
Awesome. All right,
it's
Scott,
very rare that you get to show the whole sequence like this. We show a whole blocking up, we show the whole final, and then we get maybe 1 or 2 tweaks, and that's it. So it works really well for us in animation.
Great.
Can we ever expect merch such as art book from Fortiche, or is there any way to support you guys directly? Is there already an art book that has been released?
No, I wish we had more of this, if I'm honest. I want to see more things Fortiche. Right now we have things Riot. Like when we get merch from Riot, which is cool. We're still very, very happy about those, but it's still something that I would love to see is an art book with the art that's been produced, with the textures that's been shown and all this stuff.
Was there any difficulty with animating the Atlas Gauntlet in fight scene or others?
Difficulty, no, but it was a lot of things to animate on those. There's lots of little things that moves, and all these were hand animated by the animators. Even the little thing that turns, and so no, but it's actually really cool. Really cool stuff to work and to play with when we can.
Yeah. Was there a lot of animation in pre-production to kind of find the style of even of those? No,
the gauntlets arrived, I think, when we were on the episode that was showcasing them. So we had no pre-production on the gauntlets. Yeah, but it was super cool, actually. I think we were. That's the good thing as well, is Bart has a very clear idea on how he thinks things should move, or how things should, and for this it helps us go in the right direction. And even the animators that start on those shots always come up with cool ideas, and then they tailor it to what they want to see. I think it worked well. It's something that I think is something that you want to avoid in animation, having things arrive at the last minute and having to do it but it's been working really well on this show, and I'm super impressed about that. But I think Bart really holds this show as he really knows it very, very well. And actually Bart is working on season 2, and he's doing amazing, and he's helping us a lot on all this stuff. So
awesome. Did having so long on the series help reduce crunch time?
Yes. I mean, we had a few crunch time. The problem is in Montpellier, I didn't have a lot of crunch time. I had some in Paris at some point. It's like at some point in animation, the crunch time is when we have to finish an episode so that Riot is approving it and that it can go on. I think we had enough time to make it the way that we wanted. So we never really had to do like overtime or extra hours, things like that. I think in general it was well produced.
Yeah. So would you, because especially in animation, you have quotas, so you need a good team to make sure that you're able. So good preparation, good team, you can hit those quotas, so you don't have to do all this extra work afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. But here the leads were doing a lot of that with their team, trying to manage their team. And because we have a lot of sequences, that are starting, we can start on different sequences at the same time, which allows us as well to be more flexible in how we deliver things. To me, one thing that, when you're an animator and you have to show your shot every 2 days in dailies to the same director again and again, it's counterproductive. When you have this whole sequence that everybody works on and we all finish the blocking approximately at the same time, but if a few animators are done, you can put them onto something else in the meantime that we show the blocking, then it makes things much more productive. So I think that's a very good thing. But being able to have full sequences that are completely approved and that are not going to change is also required by having a good story ahead, having a good boards that are just locked and all this stuff.
Which it sounds like you primarily worked with sequence teams as opposed to character teams.
Yeah, completely. There was no character teams. It was more about it was all sequence based. But we had people doing libraries for certain characters, and so that now we're all on models, always the same.
Cool.
We had the time to develop that because of the length of the show, for sure.
Yeah. From storyboard to layout to final shot, how many passes does a sequence go through to create visual flow and tracking on screen?
A lot, for sure. So that I actually I don't know exactly. You mean like through Riot or through Fortiche, or because a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's say for animation, between the animatic to final animation going through, layout and blocking and all that, usually how many passes on average would be presented?
For an animator, let's say on Arcane, so he would show his shot to his lead once, then his lead might give him some notes. Then if the lead and him are happy, they will show it to the head of animation, which was Bart. If Bart gives him maybe a note, then they would show it to, after, if Bart says it's okay, we would show it to the showrunner. Most of the time, he wouldn't have a note. So then you would go back, spline your shot, maybe show it one more time to your lead. He gave you a note or two, show it to Bart a second time for the final spline polish, and then going for final in front of Christian. If he has a note, you send it back one more time, but usually doesn't. So, but that's the process. But if you think of processes in other places, it can go on and on like this, because here when we block it, it's approved by your supervisor and your head of animation, which is the case in all studios. So to be able to go through director, you have to do that no matter what. So this is the general same thing. But then after, because of Christian and the thing that we did, it was very, very easy. Again, like two times in dailies, which is something that it's not that often,
Yeah. Did all animators act out their own ref, or did you get some actors in as well? Some of the walks or movement are so distinct and super cool.
So yes, we did all our own ref. Some animators are very good at doing that. And I also think in terms of attitude and movements, I'm going to again give a kudos to Bart, who small things, but there is something on this show where characters tend to look more like this than usual. Is like that. It's actually a little bit more angled. Even in the posing and stuff, it's always trying to find something about it that is distinct but doesn't feel, because super cool could be as well, this or something like that, but it's always about more raw, crude, and a bit down, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's coming from
Did
that.
you have some animators that were not comfortable to shoot their own ref, so you had other animators shoot it for them?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. We always, it's something that I think is very important for all animators to, if they're not comfortable, they should try it and then ask others to do it, but they should keep on trying. I wasn't doing, like, I remember doing my ref on Dragon 1, or they were horrible, and I would always ask others to do it for me. I think I never did a ref at, I mean, I did some ref at DreamWorks, but very late in my career. And here I'm just doing some ref on all my shots, no matter what is the character, and it's becoming something very, very much easier.
Yeah. What's the most challenging shot you have to work on? Sorry.
First, A says, I never met you, but I'm very happy for that question. And second, I'm using
I didn't
a lot
notice.
of your...
It's Siski.
Siski said, oh, okay. And I've seen your, I always use your demo reel from my Animate for my students to show them about context and subtext. I think those are amazing. Because of the fact that there's always something that the character is saying is in his relationship, where he is and what he's doing, which makes the shot much more organic and interesting to look at. So I'm always using your iAnimate reel for that anyway, and to show as well as a result of very good things. Anyway, what's the most challenging shot you have worked on? You mean on if it's on Arcane, it was the Victor shot turning and going away, which is not something that I'm super proud of or that I want necessarily to show. But I would say in the whole career, I think it was a shot of Stoic turning and yelling at Hiccup that I think I spent 3 months or something like that on, that I redid and redid. The ref was not very good, and I used it and they didn't like it. But anyway.
Was that in Dragons 1 or 2?
1, yeah, on the 1, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any specific book resources you use for inspiration for certain aspect of the show, color, environments, characters? So it comes back to influence for the show in
so for the show, the problem is it's not my influence on the color, environments, and stuff. What I would say is they use steampunk and Art Deco as a bit of their different style for the two worlds. But even this has been more detailed than that. What I think for animators is a very good resource website is called Living Lines Library. It's a bit old school. It's all 2D animation, but there is a lot of pre-production on there where you have a lot of model sheets. And I think it's super important, maybe not as much on Arcane, but in general, to look at model sheets in terms of appeal or how to draw shape, just to get simplification in shapes. I'm not sure about the on Arcane. It's a bit different because we're trying to keep the shapes that are graphic in the show and not resulting to maybe Disney appeal tweaks or this kind of things. But it's still something very valuable to look at. I think this the 2D drawings for inspiration and for shapes.
Awesome. Will you recruit junior animators anytime soon? Any advice for what you look for in an animator's show reel? And this is a question we have often during those streams. What are studio looking for in a show reel, especially from junior animators that might be getting out of school?
Cool. So for in terms of animation, sorry, but the whole season 2 is full. So for Arcane, I don't think there is any recruitment that's going to be done. However, I've recruited a lot of junior animators at Montpellier and even at Paris that have grown as being really amazing animator. So I think it's something that it's not because you're junior that it's going to be harder. In terms of for an animator's reel, for a reel like Fortiche, I mean, a studio like Fortiche, we want to see things that feels has weight, that feels naturalistic, and that has intentions. So anything where your character is going to go from a pose to something like this is something that we don't necessarily want to see. we rather see things like, again, like dragons or like Arcane type of sensibilities in the acting and in the movement and in the weight. It's something like this. It could be as well a bit of VFX. I think it's something that we'll also like, but it's a bit of a mix of both. But whenever it's too cartoony, it's something that we try to I mean, we're careful with, because it's not the same way of animating. You have to have a certain sensibility for weight, for mechanics, this kind of things.
Yeah.
Do you want to quickly revisit some of the things you mentioned for Sesk Reel and why you show it so often?
Yes. So in terms of so in Animator's Reel is simple, is mechanic shots. So let's say 2-3 mechanic shots. For mechanic shots, it could be a parkour or an action shot, or something that feels kind of lively and intense, and something that has maybe a bit of characterization with a walk or something like this, with a little bit of a story. And then you want to have some acting shots, like maybe let's say 3 acting shots. If you have a reel around 50-60 seconds, if all those shots are perfect and they're all finished and polished, I think you have a perfect reel. It doesn't need to be 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes. But all of these, then for the shots, they need to have some context, which means that your character needs to be in a place that it makes sense for the audience when they're going to look at it, and it's going to also maybe make sense with what the character is doing. So let's say, for example, for Sesk Reel, it's a girl who is washing the dishes, and she's like, being a homemaker stuff is like the worst job in the world. And being a stay-at-home mom, there we go. Being a stay-at-home mom is one of the worst job in the world, and she's doing the dishes, and she has a pile of dishes next to her. So then you understand it's funny, it creates entertainment, which is very important for your reel. And like this, you have strong shots, and it doesn't need to be overacted. It just needs, and the fact that you do something as well when you do those shots, the fact that she does the dishes, it helps her, not having to look and be like, being a stay-at-home mom is doing in the world. She can actually do something, look at there doing this, and then it makes it much more natural and easier to animate. So do reference, think about your context, and think about the subtext, which is, how is she feeling? Well, here when she does the dishes, she's feeling a little tired, and it's like, but she's also uplifting a little bit, because still it's not like the end of the world. So voilà. I think those things are important to think about when you do that.
I just want to do a quick segue, because we often have those two questions: what should I put in my show reel, and how should I handle the interview? Since you mentioned that you yourself recruited many animators, would you have any tips, again, maybe from students or junior, or of how maybe not, how to prepare themselves for an interview?
I think for the interview, if you're already there, you're already a bit in step in the door, or I don't know how to say it, but it means like your reel is already interesting them, so you have better chances. What I would say in those is actually trying to be somebody that is wanted to work, that is interested in the project, and that is motivated without being overly too much. It's like, if you're feeling like too much this or being stressed, I think is completely fine. Everybody can be stressed in those. It's more about trying not to be either bored or too much. It's just being interested and trying to understand more about the project, and I think it's showing your love for animation, or showing your love for this kind of thing that will make you then hire more than anything else. I think that's what people are looking for, is if you're interested in the project and how you're reacting, and if you're acting normal. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but a little bit.
Act normal. Just be yourself.
Yes.
Does the work you've done so far in the show in the first season make it easier, less demanding to animate season 2?
No. No. I mean, yes. No. I know. It's different. It's different challenges, because on season now we're trying to push further. We're trying to make it better. We're trying to make it more connected. It's small details that I think might not even show that much, but it's still very important for us to try to go a bit further in the details of everything. So no, we keep pushing for better acting, better mechanics, good season 2, all this. So no, it's still very demanding.
Because now there's
I have
expectation.
a follow-up question on that. I feel like I don't remember exactly, but I feel like at DreamWorks, when they went from like Kung Fu Panda 1 to Kung Fu Panda 2, the rig would be rebuilt and remade, so you couldn't transfer the library stuff over. Are
That's
you
true.
guys
That's true.
reusing libraries? Are
Yes,
you
yes, yes.
rebuilding things? Okay,
No,
you're
no, we're
rebuilding.
using the same. I mean, yes, yes, we're using the same philosophy, same way of doing things. It's the same. It's not redoing everything. So libraries can be
Okay.
used.
Great. So that'll help.
Yeah.
For the firelights, what were the process of animating them riding the hoverboards? I.e., what reference were used?
No reference for these. A lot of those shots were Keifu as well. Not all of them, but I think some were Tom as well. Tom Guil. I'm not sure from everybody, but no, those were not necessarily used with reference. I think no, it's just overboard. So it's mainly to me on this, it feels very, I mean, I'm not going to say that, but it's super hard to animate. I'm not trying to make it less, but it's also a lot of the trajectory that you take. And then it's the green thing that's behind. After, for the shots where they fall and all this, those Keifu shots, I'm like, this is just, again, it's him. And this guy is gifted on this stuff. But yeah, those were hard. Some of them are hard, depends. But no reference were used for when they were flying, for sure.
Did you use character stories as Riot tell them as their in their site in Arcane?
So for animation, no. Now for storyboard and when they build the characters, maybe, I have no idea. But for animation, what we used was the actual characters from the series as our stories. We're not going into, I mean, like, for example, I haven't played League of Legends since 10 years, and I'm not a crazy, I don't know a lot about League of Legends. However, I didn't need that to understand the characters when I arrived on Arcane and who they were and how all this made sense. Now, I think it's important for us, so I research a lot, I understand a lot about it, but it's still something that we didn't necessarily looked at in animation.
All right. Do you feel that like there's a lack of creativity for animators at all because of how fleshed out the board's animatic were? How did you balance that?
Hey, David. Is David on? That's fine. I think no, not at all. I'm sorry. I was thinking about it, but no, not at all. I think for us in animation, the creativity comes from bringing some acting that feels as good as if an actor was doing it, so that when you watch the TV series, you're not questioning. I feel like sometimes if you look at a bit of the beginning, it could be a bit too much sometimes, depending, because we're trying to find our style, our way of emoting, etc. But no, it's actually something very cool, and we have a lot of I think we still have freedom to come up with ideas, but we also want to work. I think the creativity will come also from the posing, from the appeal, and from all that. And I think we're not restricted. You can always come up with ideas that can be different. It's just we don't rework the angle or anything like that. But
Were you often changing shot lengths based on
never.
new ideas?
I'm saying never. Yes, we do, but we reduce sometimes for impact, for fighting, things like that. We do reduce or we extend if we need to see a bit more of this or that. But in terms of acting, yeah, that happened actually not too long ago. We extended a shot for the ID to be able to read, but it's very rare. I think it doesn't happen as much as what it could in the past in previous studios.
So did the animator have to get approval on their acting reference before starting animation?
It depends where. In Montpellier, yes. So I'm asking my animators to show me their reference before they actually start their shots. But in Paris, no, they didn't work like that at all. Even though the team that I was leading in Paris, I would ask them to show me their ref before they start on their shot. The reason for me doing that is just because I like to be able to go in the right direction early on. It's just about intentions, and if I'm not getting the intention that that the acting is requiring, then I want for them to reshoot. It's mainly that. I think when it's mechanics and stuff, is not as complicated. It's mainly for intentions that I like for them to show me before. But it depends of the team. Some teams, they don't work at all like this.
And were those reference shown to the director as well, or it was just for
no,
you,
just for me, not even to the head of animation. So Bart wouldn't see the references. Maybe if you want to show him a specific one to have his opinion on it, but I've never shown a reference to Bart, or if I did, it was just to tell him that, but look, it was like this, what do you think? But usually, yeah, no, they don't require it, but I do. I just
did you? Is there any reference that you've approved yourself, and then the animators start, and then it's presented to the director? Is like, what is this acting choice? That doesn't work at all.
No, that didn't happen. Luckily, if not,
good.
But no, but now I'm happy because I used to shoot a lot more references, and now because they're doing it a lot, the guys they're getting really good at reference. They're doing very good actors, and I think it's cool to see that some people from Montpellier team is getting really good at those references.
On average, how many seconds per day per animator? So animation quota, what did it look like?
1 second a day, usually for one character in screen. So we're doing 5 seconds a week. So yeah, it's like a good quota.
Yeah, which is pretty much on par with animated feature quality. So that's good.
Yeah, I think it depends. If you think of Disney, it's half of that. If you think of DreamWorks, it's a bit more than that. So it depends of the studios. It's funny how DreamWorks quotas went higher and how the rest stayed. Not everybody, but some studios stayed the same. I think it's about cost. It's very important. Not everybody can spend that, like the 150 million that Disney spend on each movie. So,
yep. Jacob,
I
felt you were about to say something.
I wanted to also explain that the 1 second per day is also an average. It's not that they're expected to final 1 second each day or anything like that.
Yes, exactly.
But that leads into then, what about how was the casting process? Did you give chunks of shots at a time, or
yes, big
one
chunks.
shot here or there?
Yeah, we give like,
and they had to bring them all
depends
at
of
the same time.
Yeah, it depends of the team, but we would give maybe 20 days of work to one person with like 5-6 shots in a row. So it's really cool for animators, because then they have real chunks that they can show in their reels. They have also a part of the sequence that they can really, tweak and make it the same. I think it's always good to do that.
Yeah, having that ownership of a moment is really important.
Exactly. And this is hard. In most studios, they do a shot here and there, and then, but yeah, when you're able to do that, is something else as well. That's really cool.
Did you ever have to take a shot that an animator started and give it to another animator?
No, I mean, maybe it have happened because of the fact that we needed to finish the sequence for the delivery date. But no, it's not something that we like. What I do is, if an animator is having a hard time, I will help him in his shot. I think I've been going in the animator shot. That has happened sometimes with them, showing them how to tweak things. And I've hired a lot of junior animators, and I think it's important, to help them and to show them. And even in actually even others, more seniors, I think it's like when I feel like the person doesn't like that or doesn't want to do that, and I wouldn't do it. It's not something it's not needed. But when I feel like it's helping them and they're okay with that, then that can happen. To show him a posing that could be different, to show him even what about if we try this or this. And I remember Pierre doing that on some of my shot on Bilby, and I think it's always something. It depends how it's done. I've also had people doing that where I was feeling like, why are you touching my shot? And some others in my career where I'm like, please do it, show me more. And I think same with people that I work with. Some are like, yes, please, more. And some are like a bit more in the no, I don't like that. So yeah, we'll try to.
Yeah, I think there has to be some level of it. The supervisor is wanting to help them grow, as opposed to just make it like they want to make it.
It's true.
This is how I want it to be, so I'm going to do it, as opposed to teach you how to learn more stuff about it.
Very true on that.
Was there any character that was more or less difficult to animate?
Jinx, I think, was very difficult to animate because we never wanted to make her like Harley Quinn. It's something that we always wanted to get away from. So, but we still wanted her to be crazy, to deal with issues, and also we never wanted her to make like too girly or too. It's a very fine balance that was very hard, and appealing wise. Same thing, can be very tricky, plus the hairs that you have to animate as well. So it's a lot of work, and so this was tricky, I think. Yeah. If not, the rest is the same.
All right, a fun question for you, and I think that this one we're actually getting out of time, so thanks a lot, Alexis. I'm glad that we had the chance to go through super rapid fire with a lot of questions, because there was a lot in today's chat.
Yeah.
A fun question for you: who is your favorite character, or which characters are your top favorites?
So I think my favorite is Silco, but it's just because he got killed. But no, I think the favorite from everybody apparently is Jinx and Vi, which makes total sense. If that's the case, my heart balances. I don't know. I love them both, so it's gonna be a tie on this one. But yeah, I like.
And
Silco.
what about favorite scene or moment?
I love. So there is a lot. I love the Silco and Jinx in the water. In the when he puts her in the water. I don't remember like when I love that scene. I love. The dinner, the last scene of the season 1, when they're all at the table there. That's the scene that I really love. I love the Civica and Vi fights. I don't know. There's a lot. I love the end of episode 3, the whole fight from beginning to the end when Powder gets onto Silco. I think all this is. I think my favorite part actually of the whole season is this big moment of end of episode 3 is just stunning.
Yeah, I think it's cool. One of the things that you get out of the show. I mean, the story, the characters that are, and there's some moment that just stays with you after you finish the episode. So to be able to craft those different moments, sometimes it's just acting, performance, and other time it's super, thrilling action. So that's that was pretty.
Yeah, it's a bit of both, exactly.
Yeah. Alexis, it was a pleasure to have you. Thanks
guys
again for accepting our invitation. Yeah,
it was awesome to see you guys. It was my pleasure.
It was long overdue. Anyone, if you arrived late for this stream, the recording is usually put in Agora.Community library afterwards, so you can go and watch the beginning. Thanks, Alexis, and let's do that again when you guys was released season 2. We'll be there for you.
Yes, thanks, Alexis. It's been great.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Bye, chat. Bye, everyone. See you next time.
Bye, chat. Thanks for all the great questions. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.